Hare Krishna, dear friends. Today we are again online with the daily Bhagavatam mirror. We are in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The chapter is entitled The Story of Pingala. And today we start with a few lines of the famous Jaya Radha Madhava song. Let me see. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Namaskritya narang chaiva narotamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayam udhirayat nashta praveshva bhatreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyutama shloke bhaktya bhavati naishtiki. So, we are continuing with the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, and we are learning from various types of gurus that can be observed in nature. And I think that is a very beautiful facet of the Vedic literature, that we can even learn from nature. I have not found so many things to learn of nature in other religious scriptures. So in the Vedas, Mother Nature plays a significant role, and it is very much respected as the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So yesterday and the day before yesterday we learned of some gurus, starting with the python. That is a snake that just waits for some victim to come, and it is compared that one should also feel oneself dependent on whatever Krishna gives us, provides us for our daily bread. We should not try to control too much everything in this world. Otherwise we tend to think that we are the supreme controller, and that is a false idea, a wrong idea, an illusory idea. The supreme controller is no one else than Sri Krishna, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. And it is also said in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yakya Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He is the supreme controller of all demigods and all planetary systems. And the more we acknowledge this fact, the more, that is what the Bhagavad Gita says, the more we become peaceful within, the more we think that we are the supreme controller, that we can control everything in our life, that we can control our so-called daily bread, then the more we become restless, and yes, restless is a good word. So, that is the python. Then we had the ocean, that is always balanced. Then the moth, who is always feels attracted by the material illusory energy, and as a moth is always flying to the light, to the flame, and then finally is burning in the flame, in the same way the conditioned soul that always feels attracted by the illusory energy of Maya finally gets burned in the flames of the material energy, which is very troublesome. So then we learn from the bumblebee. The bumblebee is flying from flower to flower and takes whatever the bumblebee finds within the flower. And in the same way, sannyasi, he goes from door to the grihastas, to the householders, and is begging for some alms, for some food stuff. And whatever the grihastas provide, the sannyasi, he is satisfied with it. So, yeah. So today we continue with the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are still in the summary of the 8th chapter, the story of Pingala. And here the 9 gurus that occur in nature, they are described very briefly. So the next guru we can learn of is, I will read now. The instruction from the deer is that just as he becomes confused upon hearing the song of the hunter's flute and loses his life, so also does any person who becomes attracted to mundane music and song uselessly waste his life. So this is what we can learn from the deer in a negative sense. As we explained yesterday, here we find positive gurus. That means gurus, teachers, we can learn how to do things. There are also negative gurus or teachers who show us what not to do. And here we have another negative guru, the deer, that becomes confused upon hearing the song of the hunter's flute and loses his life. So also does any person who becomes attracted to mundane music and song uselessly waste his life. So here we hear from the deer. The deer is an animal who has a feeling, has a sense for music. When you go into a forest and you see a deer, usually deers are very shy. They immediately run away. But if you are expert, let's say, in playing an instrument, it might happen that this deer becomes stunned, I think is the right word. It becomes stunned and cannot move because the deer is so attracted to beautiful music. And some expert hunters, they have found out that the deer has this tendency to become attracted towards mundane, beautiful music. And then when the deer is comes nearer and nearer, then at one point the hunter is shooting his arrow towards the deer and kills the deer. So this example is given that often we human beings, we feel attracted towards mundane music, mundane material music. What is the meaning of mundane music? Actually, there was a very, very famous German composer called, because I am German natively, I can say it in German, Johann Sebastian Bach. He's one of the most famous classical composers of all times. And he said that all music that is not composed for the glorification of God is actually just noise. It is terrible noise. This is a quote by Johann Sebastian Bach. And that is what we learn here from this summary, is that music and songs that are not composed or played or performed for the glorification of God, these kind of music is just pulling us down deeper and deeper into material consciousness. And when we listen to such music, often the lyrics are like very mundane lyrics. She loves you, yeah, yeah. This very by the Beatles, or I wanna hold your hand. So we become absorbed in the mundane relationships of, let's say, a boy and a girl, or a man and a woman, which is not, I don't want to say that this is very bad, but the more we absorb just in mundane things and relationships, and not focus our mind towards our eternal relationship between God and the living entity, then this will keep us within the material consciousness. And that means at the time of death, I have explained, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, at the time of death, then it is not possible for us to remember God. And that means we again take another birth in this material world and are afflicted by the three types of misery, and by old age, by disease, birth of course, and death, which is very troublesome and very unnatural for the soul. So this is what we can learn, or what we can learn from the deer not to do. We should not feel too attracted by mundane music. We should feel attracted by spiritual music. We have so many songs, for instance, in the Krishna traditions. There are so many songs composed by the Vaishnava acharyas like Narottam Das Thakur, very beautiful songs, or Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And there's even modern music where devotees try to glorify Krishna in modern language. For instance, in English language, there's one musician called Mangala Nanda Das. He has composed very beautiful music. Or Titikshava Karunika comes into my mind. And I am also part of a music project called Tulsi Beats. You can check it out on YouTube. We have also released a couple of songs where we have tried to glorify Krishna. So this kind of music is uplifting, and of course there are so many kirtans and bhajans in a traditional way performed or in a modern way, that doesn't matter, with the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And yeah, when we listen to the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, then this is always uplifting for us. So let's check out the 8th guru, and then I have seen some comments here I will check out afterwards. So we continue now. The instruction learned from the fish is that because he comes under the sway of attachment to the sense of taste, he is caught on the baited fishhook, I hope I have pronounced it correctly, and must die. Similarly, an unintelligent person who is victimized by his insatiable tongue will also end up losing his life. So this is what we should not learn from the fish, another negative guru. We should not be too much on the platform of our taste, of the sense of the taste. The tongue. The tongue has two tendencies. The tongue always wants to speak. There are people we know, I think each of you knows a person who is always, who talks too much, and also talking much is not bad if we talk about God or Krishna, then talking is desirable. But when we only talk about material things called Gramya Katha, this is village talk. Did you hear that she said, that he said, that she said, and so on? You know, this village talk. You know, nothing important. Or we also call it prajalpa. So this is not desirable. So, but the tongue always wants to vibrate, wants to say something. So this is one tendency of the tongue. And the second one, also very dangerous, is the desire to taste a lot of different foodstuffs. And as we know, many people are very addicted to, for instance, eating meat. Meat is for many people a very addictive thing. When you ask people to stop eating meat, often you hear the answer, "Oh, this is not possible for me. I am so attached to the taste of meat." So this can be very dangerous. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his song has explained that especially the tongue is the most dangerous of our 5 senses. Sharira avidya jal jodendriya tahe kal jive pile vishaya sakure, because the tongue can become so strong that it wants to taste all kinds of foodstuff where a lot of violence is involved. Like, for instance, in eating meat, by eating meat, there is so much violence involved. We have to kill an animal and then cut the meat out and cook it. So a living entity had to go through a lot of, like a traumatic experience. Suppose you and I, we would be this animal, and we realize, oh, now I will get slaughtered, and we experience this horror of being slaughtered, all this consciousness also is going inside the meat. And the person who is eating the meat, he's also eating this fear and this horror. Therefore, people who are eating meat, this is my assumption and also my observation to a certain degree, they cannot really find real deep peace inside themselves, because there's always this horror and fear inside of their body. So that is compared with this attachment of unauthorized or violent foodstuff. This is the attachment compared with the fish, who is so attracted to, let's say, a worm, but actually sometimes the fish can see that there is a hook, but still the attachment of eating that worm is bigger than the fear of getting hooked. And it's also very painful. Suppose you are biting into a big hook. It's very painful. But the worm, or in my example, the meat, the hamburger or the steak, is so attractive to some persons that they take up the risk of biting right into the hook just to get this taste of the hamburger or the steak. So that is what we should learn from the fish not to do. We should not feel too much attracted by various foodstuffs, especially those who are gained by violence. We should feel attracted to foodstuff that is offered, that is cooked with love and devotion to Krishna, for Krishna, and then offered to Krishna. And then we can put our preparation on a plate, offer it to Krishna, and put it there for a couple of minutes, 2, 3, 5 minutes, depends on our daily schedule. And then after 5 minutes we can take the plate and put it back into the pot. And then this is called prasadam, the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this foodstuff is non-violent, or it is violence-free, karma-free. And we actually can make spiritual advancement. So we again got 2 very valuable instructions today by 2 gurus. One was the deer and one was the fish. We can learn what not to do, or where we have to be careful in our spiritual life. So let's check out if there are some questions or comments. I have seen something is here actually. Yes, here's one question by Vikas Vaswani. He was maybe correct. Music, the mundane version, is more for mind excitement and aggression, but not for glorification of Krishna, the original reason why music was created by Narada Muni. Yes, I think Vikas is referring to the quote of Johann Sebastian Bach, who said that all kinds of music that is not performed for the glorification of God is actually just plain noise. So quite radical quote by Bach. But when we see, for those of you who have dealt with a composer like Bach, actually his accomplishments in the musical tradition are unique. There are not so many composers like Johann Sebastian Bach. He revolutionized music in I guess it was in the 17th century. He lived, I think, from 1685 to 1750. And he composed very, very beautiful music that is still appreciated all around the world. And you really can feel by listening to music of Bach, by Bach, that your consciousness becomes uplifted. So, is there something else? Okay, then I want to thank you again for listening. And tomorrow we will hear about the 9th guru, which is a prostitute. Believe it or not, a prostitute tomorrow called Pingala. She is also one of those 9 gurus, and what she has to instruct we learn tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.